this is what it looks like from this side of the
And now the man we've all been waiting for.
God knows I've been to many of these. I want to thank you all for coming, but I think more importantly, I want to thank you all for sharing with me everything that you know, everything that you could see even in front of me. Helped me not crash when I could have easily crashed, and just been a source of inspiration. I benefited from some senior people who were kind enough to share with me what they knew, and not just about products or regulations and things like that, but about how to work with people. And I've also been very, very fortunate to have some very high-quality people working with me. So getting here was actually pretty easy because of the folks that I'm trying to find some. Okay. Those of you that have been on sales presentations with me know I don't usually read from anything, but time has its impact. In my last area under Dwayne, a lot of very young and very bright people. And there's a Penn Stater in there too, by the way. And we were talking one day, and one of them had said to me, "Well, you're an old timer. You know, what's it like to be an old timer?" And I don't think I never thought of myself in that way. So I said, I can't give you a good answer. But I thought in preparation for this, I started to think a little bit about old timers, and I came up with a few things about defining at least a MetLife old timer. And basically, you're an old timer if you know that MetLife old timers were once called veterans. You're an old timer if, and I'm not going to keep saying that, so we'll skip to it. If you remember when letters from Hershey were typed in brown ink, and they referred to their company as the Chocolate Corporation. Nestle's didn't do a thing. One word, company. If you remember that GM employees were shortchanged the need.
You're right, that's right.
They never used the last E in the term. So you're an old timer if you remember that stuff. And you got to be an old timer if you spelled it their way. You're an old timer if you remember when almost all of MetLife employees were paid weekly. In cash. From a payroll truck. One of the great pastimes of the actuarial students in those days was we used to sit, instead of studying for the next exam, we used to plot on how we would get away with the whole payroll. Never had the guts to pull it off. You're an old timer if you remember when your workday was controlled by the bells. Right. The bells rang at the beginning of the day for 5-minute breaks, for lunch, for another 5-minute break, and then when it was time to go home.
Oh, yeah.
You're an old timer if you remember that 2B and 3B had to do with eating lunch and not floor location. Second baseman and third baseman. You're an old timer if you remember summer band concerts in the park. And if you remember those ladies who came around to refill your ink pad, your inkwell, and get your scratcher sharpened. I still have my scratcher, but I didn't keep as good care of as you did then. So I couldn't find it today. You're an old timer if you remember the library. I remember the library. It was one of the great benefits of being a MetLife employee. Bart, of course, is not here. You remember, you're an old timer if you remember fuzzy furniture in the contract bureau. What they actually did was, it was an experiment to not have to get new furniture, but to make everything look bright. And so the company hired a firm that spray painted the furniture, and it came out with this sort of a fuzzy finish on it. And they were terrible colors, royal blue and, you know, bright red and that.
Do you think that was a John Creedon decision?
No, he had much better taste than that. And the last one, my friend Eddie Dietrich, not here, but